Get ready for the event of the summer, the North Woods Throwdown Charity Softball Game. Maine Game Wardens versus New Hampshire Game Wardens. Hadlock Field, Portland, Maine, home of the Sea Dogs. Saturday, August 3rd. Gates open at 4 p.m. Meet the Game Wardens playing and be there early for all the events leading up to the game. Get your tickets soon at porttix.com. That's porttix.com. This is Game Warden Wayne Saunders, and I'll see you there. Wireless Partners building the FirstNet cellular network for AT&T in New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont to ensure first responders can always communicate in emergency situations, so you know help is on the way when you need it. Wireless Partners is partnering for success with communities, local and state government, local business, and visitors. Wireless Partners building cellular networks for you. Guidefitter.com. Guidefitter, bridging you to the outdoors while providing a quality platform for guides and outfitters for you to select from. Guidefitter is the best place to get discounts on gear if you're an outdoor professional. As a game warden, I'm a member of the Outdoor Government Program, which has over 80 quality brands to get discounts from. It's free to join. Yes, free to join. And all you need to do is prove that you're an active outdoor government employee. There are all kinds of products available. Apparel, boots, archery equipment, optics, backpacks, cameras, watches, ammo, anything, you name it. And while you're there, check out the articles, information, and stories that you'll be inspired from. So before you head out to work in the outdoors or start your next outdoor adventure, check out guidefitter.com and get discounts on your everyday or every so often outdoor equipment. This is Game Warden Wayne Saunders for Guidefitter. Wish you could fish more, anywhere, anytime. RODgeeks, a St. Croix rods partner, has developed a 42-inch one-piece travel rod designed and built with the same technology found in St. Croix rods. This travel rod is offered as a kit that comes with the RG42 rod, spinning reel, fishing line, pliers, and tackle tray. All in a case with space for your wallet, phone, and fishing license. Just grab and go. Perfect to keep in your pickup, car, or RV. This shorty performs much like a longer rod, but is compact enough for easy storage and for on-the-go use. Make this the summer you fish more. RODgeeks.com. Please join me, Game Warden Wayne Saunders, and other Game Wardens on our adventures, protecting wildlife, saving lives, and having fun, all while serving the public and the natural resources of our planet. Listen to the tales and experiences of those who work in the outdoors while being entertained with stories about encounters with poachers, wildlife investigation, murder investigation, near-death experiences, search and rescue missions, wildlife interactions from game wardens around the country and around the world. When I retired, I realized I couldn't let go of that legacy, but rather wanted to share the passion, the commitment, and the stories of those men and women that call themselves game wardens. This is Game Warden Wayne Saunders, and this is Warden's Watch. Welcome to episode 10. Interview with Conservation Officer Eric Fluette, who covers the northern part of New Hampshire, northeast actually, Erroll country, if anybody's familiar with northern New Hampshire. And Eric also handles K-9 Moxie, and a lot of you may know K-9 Moxie. And I moved Eric up. Eric and I did these back-to-back interviews, and I had him planned for later down the road. But with this softball game coming up, the North Woods Throwdown, they were highlighted. So I wanted to highlight them too. I wanted everybody to get a feeling for the guys that were facing off each other. Eric Fluette's going to do back-to-back podcasts. 3 hours worth of podcasting, some great stories. Brings you, from the beginning of Eric's career all the way to Alaska, back to New Hampshire, to the coast of New Hampshire, working the coast, to the northern reaches of New Hampshire, which is close as he could get to Alaska. Just a great interview, great individual. You're going to laugh a little. You may even cry a little. I hope you enjoy this. We'll do back-to-back podcasts. So podcast 10 and 11 is going to be Eric Fluette. And then we're going to clean up number 13 with Chris McCabe, Maine Warden Service. Guys that are highlighted that you see, you'll get to know them a little bit more and know their passions. See them play a little softball, I hope, too. Here we go. Podcast with Conservation Officer Eric Fluette, otherwise known as a game warden, right?
Right, correct.
And Eric, we got quite a bit of history together, don't we?
Yeah, we sure do.
Well, a lot of fun history. So that's kind of cool. I'm I've been looking forward to this interview for a long time because of the chemistry. I found out people I have chemistry with, they're just a better interview. So, and I keep worrying about the person I don't know, but I think it's more the personalities that I'm looking for. You know, the Colonel Jordans of this world, you know, we just had that chemistry. So, but we got a lot of history together too. Very similar to you and I.
Oh yeah, work and play. So.
Work and play. And work was a lot of play for us too, because we love what we do.
Yep.
I just got some feedback from another podcaster through my brother, and he doesn't hunt, he doesn't fish, he doesn't know anything about game wardens, but he's like, your brother's passion is incredible for what he does. And you can hear that through his podcast, and that's what impressed me listening to him on his podcast. So, and I think a lot of guys have that. So, and a lot of guys want to share it, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, like you said, that passion and the drive to succeed with the goals we set or the work we do. And then, I'm sure that comes across very evident with your podcast. So. Yeah,
and we need support, basically, because conservation law is a part of a management tool that we do. We have all the biologists can, biologize everything and say this is what we need to do. The legislator can make the rules, or fish and game departments can make the rules, but then they need some teeth in it.
Yeah.
And I think the nation is forgetting. I think the world is forgetting about the teeth. The teeth I see are in Africa, and they're pretty toothless over there because they don't have the equipment and stuff like that. But they're getting the limelight. So, but I think North America, I think people are forgetting us because we do such a good job. That's just my opinion. But we do such a good job in implementing this and being the teeth in the management program. So, I guess that's my message throughout my podcast: is don't forget the teeth. Because we're important, And
then also just those face-to-face contacts that we have on a daily basis, more now than ever, I realize how much of a impact you can have with hunters, fishermen, recreators in the state when you see them on that basis, which to us is just another contact, but to them could be that once in their recreational career contact,
Absolutely. And I hate to say this, but everybody remembers you, but it's hard to remember everybody.
Yep, for sure.
So people walk up to you and say, "Hey, Eric, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a long time." And you're like, "Yeah, I don't remember your name." And as they talk, sometimes it jogs and sometimes it doesn't. But
yep, and then you're just trying to remember, is this a good contact? Is this a bad
contact? I talk about the time my wife came up to me in Walmart because I was talking to a guy all tattooed up and had just got out of prison for a felony for an assault on a trooper. And she was like, "Why didn't you introduce me?" I'm like, "Because I didn't really want to introduce you, Although we started on a good note as a trapper. So we had a good relationship. So I wasn't afraid to talk to the guy, and sometimes, information comes out of those situations. It's, you create your own Operation Game Thieves as a game warden, don't you, locally?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I feel like... how you're perceived in your community plays a huge role on your career.
Absolutely.
I would hate to be the person that was unapproachable, and I feel I wouldn't be able to do my job as well as I do without that.
Yeah, and where you are, you're the only law enforcement officer in your town, in your adjoining towns.
I think my patrol now.
Patrol. What's the closest law enforcement officer that lives to you?
I mean, it'd be the troopers, and they do come through, and patrol alongside me. But
no one lives there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's you are the law enforcement in that country, that Erroll, that northern eastern part of New Hampshire. You're it.
Yep. Yeah.
When it hits the fan at the school, who's going to be first there?
Right. Yeah.
If you're in the area, you're going to be the guy.
Yep.
And I think we see that nationwide with all these incidents. We see wardens involved. Yeah, I just saw. It was funny that it said game warden. It's kind of like the utility tool of the police.
Yeah.
Because they have everything.
The Swiss Army knife.
That's what it was. The Swiss Army knife of law enforcement.
Yeah.
Because we have all the gear, because we're prepared for everything. We have all the clothing. We have all the weapons because we deal with wildlife all the time, and we have to dispatch wildlife, so we fire our weapons a lot. Yep. We're in the woods, but we're the Swiss Army knife of law enforcement. When something's needed, they're called. When the troopers need a search, after they've searched, they can't find evidence, they call us. And it's a good teamwork. The Swiss Army knife, they sometimes forget they have it.
Yeah.
So
No, it's funny. People jump in my cruiser and they're like, wow, you've got so much stuff jammed in this small area. And of course, knock on wood, I can always say I've never not had what I need. So, that's but yeah, just right. We're prepared for whatever
and that doesn't get any better, Eric, because you saw my cruiser, my Tahoe.
Oh, yeah.
And I had the same thing. Everybody got in here and they're like, oh my goodness, and I'm like, get everything but the kitchen sink because you need it.
Yep.
And
never know.
You never know. And then someone will ask me for something, and I'm digging. I got
got it in there. Yeah.
I had everything I needed and then some. And it was just so heavy weighted. I had everything, so I'd run a mobile search right out of the cruiser.
Yeah.
So when you guys needed batteries, I carried a whole box of batteries for everybody that needed batteries. So everything that you guys I thought were going to need, like extra headlamps, extra everything, because that's what the supervisor is supposed to do.
Yep.
So when you're a lieutenant, you understand you'll have your Tahoe packed to the hilt.
Yeah, I'll fill that
missions.
too then. Yeah,
you will definitely fill that. So we started getting along. Should I ever have you as a trainee?
So I don't think
so either, because I'm like thinking back, never trained with you.
So I was with Matt Holmes, was my first FTO.
Great.
So that would have been when I was up in District 1 for my first exposure to the area.
And you kind of gravitate to the big woods, don't you?
Just in that picture of what a game warden to me was, and just what I wanted to pursue was that big woods patrol at some point in my career.
How'd that get in your system?
Yeah. Well, I would say probably between our details where I'd come up for moose season, Wayne, that was probably my first exposure to New Hampshire's big woods. But prior to that, going through college and stuff, recreating up in the Allagash area of Maine, I mean, just some what I would consider the big woods, the Alaska woods, of New England.
And you went to Alaska to work too, didn't you?
I did. I worked for Fisheries, for some fisheries work out in Alaska. First year out there, dropped me off in a float plane for 28 days at a remote site in me and another guy.
So bring me through this. There's a kid from New Hampshire. Had you'd been to Unity at that point?
Yeah,
college,
so kind of a funny story. Some of my friends had found out that there was this internship we could do. So what that equated to the three of us was a free trip to Alaska to do some fishing and explore
Sounds like
Alaska.
A college kid.
Yeah, so three of us put in for this process. We each have our phone interviews. Next thing you know, we find out all three of us got it, and we need to book our plane tickets.
Awesome.
So that then equated to three of us coordinating with the the flight arrangements, and three of us were sitting beside each other for the flight out
awesome.
that spring. It was. I'll never forget our flight attendant Beth, and it was. Was
Beth good looking?
Well, Beth just kept. She was good looking, attractive woman, and did her job very well.
Why you remembered her name? Because maybe this is a focal point in your life. You stepped out. You're on your way to Alaska. You're a little nervous.
She covered all our costs for the flight out, and
wow, nice.
No, she was. Yeah, no, it was a trip to remember.
What airline?
Alaska Airlines.
Airlines.
Yeah.
Nice. Beth from Alaska Airlines. Hopefully she'll get a chance to listen to this. She made a lasting impression on a young college student going to a fisheries place and where. So you fly into Juneau. This is your first time to Alaska?
Yeah. So first trip to Alaska, we flew into Anchorage and then transferred on a little plane into Kenai.
Isn't that awesome when you come into Anchorage?
Yeah. So that was
out the window.
Yeah, my first. Geez, I think that was my first trip ever west. So seeing the mountains, for the first time, those snow-capped mountains and everything. Yeah. Oh yeah. I was the person with the head out the window for most of the flight.
I bet. And then I'll remember, coming into Anchorage, it's just, the airport's at like the end of the land, and you can just see green and water, and you get that lump in your throat when you see it. Here it is. That's good because I think we all have that desire to go there. I've been there a couple times, and then I had the desire to work there, kind of like you did, because for the Park Service I kept putting in Wrangell, St. Elias, so to go up there, and I had a chance, but I already accepted a job, so I had to say no. So we're landing in Alaska, and you fly this little. How little is this plane?
Oh, well, so the next flight, it was just a two proper, so one off each wing, and that brought us in. It must have held probably 30 people. It was fairly
so it was
sizable.
good size. They didn't go through your gear and throw out your cases of beer and things like that.
No.
Yeah,
They
you don't need
they
that.
just
You
took.
don't need that. You don't need that. Okay, we need to lighten up.
Yeah.
Which one of you is going to ride on the wing? You know?
Yeah. No. This one was,
You had plenty of.
plenty of room, and it was an interesting flight because, of course, the person I sat next to was the person who apparently had been in that plane when it did a full barrel roll at some point. So that was the story I got from him. Now, how much truth was in his stories? There was a lot of stories.
Puke all over him or something?
No.
Okay.
But apparently he flies it regularly, and that had happened, and we had some of the best pilots flying for us. So that was it was just the whole trip getting out there was something else. And then
was that your first prop plane? Because I'll tell you what, when you get in one of those prop planes that holds 30 people, it's a different experience. It's not like a jet. It's noisy.
Oh yeah, loud. Yeah,
loud. Cold sometimes. The one I was in was cold.
Yeah.
So it was a whole different experience. So I was like, and I'm thinking, man, I like jets a whole lot better. But it got us there, and But at first I was wondering.
Yeah. No, and like I said, this was still a commercial, venue that we were on, and it was nice. But yeah.
So you flew to where?
So just literally across the inlet to Kenai. So that's all it was. It just dropped us there, and we home based out of Kenai.
Plane flight was relatively short.
Yeah. To drive it would have been like 3.5 hours because you got to go around the inlet. But to fly it was, I don't even know if it was an hour away.
Right.
It was quick.
Up and down.
45 minutes or something.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
You can pretty much see, from Anchorage, Kenai.
Yeah. So from there?
Yeah. So from there, that year was a heavy spring. So we home based out of Kenai in the office of Cook Inlet Aquaculture Association, and
so someone met you at the airplane and stuff.
Yeah, picked us up, brought us over to their headquarters, and we basically camped out there until snow decreased enough or basically until ice was out, so that we could land the float plane in the pond, the lake I was going to.
What time of year are you landing?
So this must have been, May? So we graduated, so it probably, mid-May we must have been flying out. So
and ice isn't out yet up there.
Yeah. So that at that point it was just a heavy snow year, I guess, and so between the snow and ice that was on the lake, we had to wait till that was out. But that being said, when we landed out there was 4 feet of snow. We were literally shoveling off our tent platform, shoveling little walkways to cooking, the latrine, you name it. It was all shoveling.
Were you still psyched, or you were like, what the heck did I get into? Or
at that point, I really wished I'd have brought a thicker sleeping bag, Wayne. But I think for the first couple of weeks, 2 weeks, I was
bugs weren't out yet, right?
Pretty much sleeping in every bit of gear I had. Yeah, that was the positive silver lining. There wasn't
bugs yet.
Yeah.
When the snow goes, the bugs come about 2 days later.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
so you waited for the ice to come out. Then what was your job?
Yeah. So we set up basically a smolt trap. So this would catch, the juvenile fish that were heading out to sea.
So smolts are juvenile fish heading out to sea. How big?
Yeah. So these things, I don't even know if they were, let's say a big one would be in that like 3-inch range, type thing.
So that's what you're targeting.
Yeah. And so catch ID and then, Now
how you catch them? Nets?
No. So this would be basically so we would essentially funnel them in with some, I'll say fence, basically. So you'd cut off a portion of the river. We attempted to cut off the full river. And so everything that would come down would have to go into the trap. And then you'd have that exact data of from this timeline to this timeline. We caught X number of smolt. And anyway, we attempted to do that. And the next day after blocking off the river, the water was so high, it about, obliterated our fence line. So we had to do basically a statistical, segment of the river to funnel into this trap. And then every day I think we checked it twice a day, so morning and night. got the data that we were there to get.
Were you killing the fish at the same time?
No. So we just take a pretty quick, a quick measurement, ID, and then we'd take like a scale sample. So we'd have to get like, of course, briefly with touch, you get a ton of scales, and then you just have to, I think we'd get 10 on a little glass
slide.
Slide. Yep. So you just get 10 on it.
And a slide, something that goes under a microscope so they can actually look at this, the health and the growth and everything. Yeah. Kind of like rings on a tree, so to speak, right?
Yeah, I guess. I never actually got to examine the slides we did, but we'd package them all up and send them. Yeah.
Some of my first work was in fisheries too, and it's awesome to start off this way to build your resume.
Oh yeah,
and that was get the experience touching fish.
Yeah. And then I got to, do a lot of fly fish. I never knew how to fly fish until I got out there because I figured for 28 days I'm going to learn how to fly fish.
Absolutely.
So bought a LL Bean package while I was out before the trip.
The junior one that has everything in it.
Oh yeah, all there. Awesome. It fit right in the suitcase, fit on the float planes.
Not like a RODgeeks rod, but they probably went around that. You had a RODgeeks rod, you would have thrown that in the pack and been on your way.
But yeah, so it was a lot of rainbow fishing, dolly.
What was the biggest fish you caught while you were there?
Oh geez, come the adult migration of salmon, I mean, I don't know, these things had to have been in that 8-pound range, Wayne, and you just consistently catching these beautiful salmon. I mean, it was.
I'm sure you ate a lot of salmon.
Yeah, never.
It was awesome, wasn't it?
Yeah, never did not have salmon if you wanted it, and
I just remember when we went to Alaska, everywhere we went, salmon, and I ate salmon almost every time. I loved it. I had salmon for breakfast. Had it in an omelet. Had it. It was just. I can't get enough salmon. It's awesome.
Yeah. So. No, it was spectacular. So.
Did you do any trips out from camp or anything? Did you guys get a time to explore, or just pretty much work while you were there?
Yeah, so a lot of downtime. So we do fish and then hiked around and stuff, explored some area. So there was a mountain not too far from us that we bushwhacked to, and it was really neat that first year just seeing that stuff, that remote setting, and then all the different things that grow out there that we don't have. I'll never forget that. I think they call it Devil's Club. You touch that once and you'll never reach for that again on the side of a slope. But it was awesome. Like I said, never will forget that. Being out there and seeing all that and being a part of it. Yeah.
Any brown bear encounters?
Not. So that year. My first year out there, I'm trying to think. I don't think I even trying to remember my first one that I saw. It might have been at. I don't even know if I saw one that first year, to be honest.
You did this more than 1 year?
Yeah. So the second year I was there for the adult migration, and that was when, we had seen a lot of, you'd see a lot of adult.
I got it. Smolts are going out in the spring.
Yeah.
Back, so
the bears are just coming out from the winter.
Right.
And so yeah, I didn't get to really explore much area, and I can't remember if that first year I might have seen a grizz when we went into Denali. Yeah. So I got to see one in that setting.
And the difference between brown bears and grizzlies is different terrain, basically the same general species, different subspecies.
Yeah.
And I know some bear biologists are going to correct me here, but brown bears are usually on the coast, and grizzlies are in the interior, so a little small. I probably shouldn't start quoting that stuff that I don't know a whole lot about, not being a Western warden. So.
All I can know is that they kill a lot of adult salmon and pile them up on the side.
Pretty efficient at it. Huh?
Oh yeah. This one.
So your second year, did you trip over a pile of fish or something that the bear was stacking?
Yeah, it was incredible. So we got called. I was in a little more of a not really a management role, but just assisting our camps, so the remote camps. So me and another woman, she and I would go out and fill the camps with food, whatever they needed. We'd make sure their data's good and whatnot.
You were kind of like a support guy.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, in that, I actually was getting paid the second year, so that was even better.
Yeah, no more intern.
So now,
right.
Yeah, so that was awesome.
Cool.
So I was in a paid position. And,
they saw you're a big rugged guy, and he can haul a pack into these remote sites.
Oh, geez, yeah. But yeah, so that was the year I got to actually see quite a few grizzly bears, and it was really really neat. And then got to fish more of that adult salmon migration, so that was kind of neat too.
Yeah. Any encounters with brown bears that you?
So I guess one of the first or the biggest bear I ever saw. I was with my buddy who's a trooper out there, and he and I were going fishing. So I was out there a couple weeks prior to when I needed to be, and so anyway, he and I went down to the Russian River. So we, of course, daylight's till whenever. So we got down there later than we expected and started heading in. So we parked at one of the, I don't know if it was a state park, but a major trailhead, I'll say, and everybody's fishing right from the start of the river. Well, we worked our way upriver, and ultimately just keep working up, trying to find a pool. And I'll never forget it because I'm behind him hiking, and all of a sudden I just see this bear across the river from us, and this thing comes out. And I'll never forget the depiction of this bear was that flat forehead bear that is big. I'll never forget it. That was what distinguished this bear from any other bear I'd ever seen. So this thing comes out, and I'm just telling him, hey, bear. And he's like, yeah, right, no way. And I'm like, yeah, look over there. And next thing you know, we're across a small river.
So how far you think?
Oh, I don't even 20 yards. 25 yards maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, literally just across this river. And now we're just like, okay, where's the gun? Because we're standing our ground, just standing still. And of course, it's in the backpack, Wayne, so it's below all the stuff,
Yeah.
And that being said, the bear, as soon as it aired us, you just saw its nose go up, and just did a 180 and walked right away from us. But
nice.
Yeah, before either of us could get cameras,
do.
Nothing. We couldn't get our cameras out or anything, and so that was the biggest bear encounter I had when I was out there, and what a beauty he was.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. 25 yards away to have him come out and just get that up in your face. I can still see it in your mind still. You're still right there.
Yeah. And then, of course, came the hours of frustration trying to catch these migrating salmon out of these pools when you can see, 20-plus fish in a small hole, but you can't get them to bite anything.
Right. Yeah. I was doing that when I was in Alaska with my friend's a fisheries biologist up there in Sitka, and we were out, and some Indians, some natives, fishing, subsistence fishing, and they had, a net, and they'd go down.
Yeah.
And he'd come up with a fish every time.
Yeah, just dip netting them?
Yeah, dip netting them, but he'd put down, and he'd come up. I'm like, we can't even catch him with this, that. So I finally went over, and I was watching. So what's the trick? Every time you're coming up with one, and he gave me a line of bull.
Yeah.
He told me that, this, that, and the other thing, and, but I hung around with him enough so we got friendly. It's like, okay, I'll tell you the secret. There's a notch down there in the rocks that they always stage before they go up any further. So, if there's not one there when I put it down, there'll be one there in about 2 seconds, and I just scoop the notch. And he's like, I was taught that by my father, who was taught that by his grandfather, and right here is the notch, and I can scoop one every time, every 30 seconds he was coming out with a fish.
Man. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But that was kind of cool to watch and, be a part of. And, I couldn't catch one on a hook and line to save my life. And those were silvers, too.
Nice.
That was pretty neat. There was a lake up above us that they were heading to. Yeah, just gorgeous country. So
yeah, and amazing how everybody, that was what I thought was the neatest thing out there, is how oriented everybody is to the salmon runs, and everybody.
It's like a lifeline.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
For the environment, for the animals, for the people.
I mean, on the radio, you'd hear about the runs up such and such river,
absolutely.
The management end of.
They're probably the most in touch with their environment as anybody is, because they still rely on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty cool as an outsider going in, because I know as an insider, we live in a gorgeous place, New Hampshire, and northern New Hampshire, and you get used to it.
Yeah, it's easy to eventually, take things for granted, I guess, So
I think when you live there, you take it for granted eventually.
Yeah.
But when you get in there with new eyes and new energy, it's kind of cool. So I think that's with anybody, any place. So, but sometimes I pinch myself and say, I live in one of the most gorgeous places in the country, in the world, and the White Mountains of New Hampshire has everything, and we're close to the ocean, and so, and Alaska is one of those places that's very similar, and I think that's why you gravitated to northern New Hampshire.
Yeah.
You got that wild in you.
Yeah. That experience out there was just, like I said, I'll never forget it, and happy to have that opportunity, and I'd love to get back there.
Yeah. No, and you will. You will, I'm sure. So.
But I guess the Erroll Patrol, has about as close to Alaska as I can get in the state of New Hampshire.
As close as New Hampshire's going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no doubt. So being the only law enforcement officer, in a huge area, kind of, it's not quite Alaska, but it's as close as you're going to get in northern New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And, I got to talk about how you got there, too.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if I want to talk about your first day or how you got, where'd you get the game warden in you?
Yeah. So, and that's a story in itself. So, as early as I can remember, my one of my best friends, who would have been my mother's friend from high school, son, Zach Eskelin. So he and I were always together recreating. Well, his father, Dave Eskelin, was a conservation officer for New Hampshire. So at an early age, I remember jumping in with him in the morning. We'd have a routine and grabbing a coffee.
How old do you think you were?
Oh, gee. I bet I had to have been maybe early teens, not even, just early teens going with them. And, we'd jump in, sit on a field, whatever, early AM, sitting out. I was just blown away by that this is a job that I could, people do. Number one, he's got a cruiser, this thing, this 4-wheel drive truck jumping in,
the radio,
all these
the
gadgets
lights,
inside,
shotgun.
I mean, as a little kid, I was just, awed and had to do it, let alone the boats in his yard,
the 4-wheeler.
The ATV, Actually, now that you mention it, I think I remember my first encounter with Dave. We were back at our house in Hudson, and I think he had his ATV for whatever reason. Cabe was at the house, and I'll never forget him ripping around, heading around there, and my first exposure to seeing him working, and so anyway, hooked just from seeing him in working capacity, whether he's leaving in his uniform, Zach and I are playing, and then it progressed to riding along with him, and just seeing that work firsthand. And then it was just, I think 8th grade, seventh or 8th grade, I had a career project and focused specifically on a game warden, a conservation officer, and had Dave come in and to my class and everything, and
wow.
And so I would say from there for sure on, I was focused on wanting to be a
kind
warden.
Of built your life to be a game warden.
Yeah, it was just anything running by Dave. Hey, should I do that? Whatever. And
I had very similar experience. Yeah.
So Dave certainly was my mentor from as early as I can remember, and for sure is the inspiration of getting me to want to do this for sure.
Yeah. And then you had that north in you. So your first day in District 1, you've been an officer for how long before you transferred here?
Oh, yeah. So I had started on the seacoast. So it was down out of District 6, right out of our Durham office. And I must have been there just about 3 years maybe.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity came where, I had the opportunity to put in for the vacancy up in the Erroll Patrol.
That wild was calling, huh?
Yeah. It was, two totally different animals. The seacoast work, I can without a doubt say is the most interaction with a natural resource in our state. So, for sure you're protecting a natural resource.
And we're going to get back to that because I'm going to go back to that. But your first day, you transfer up here.
Oh, yeah. So first day, I'm in District 1 in, at the time. So it would have been Lieutenant Sergeant I'm meeting up with. So you as Lieutenant and Sergeant Mark Ober.
Yeah.
Meeting up. So, I'm just
we had a plan.
Oh, yeah. I need to be here at this time and we're going to work the deer decoy. So in my head, I'm amped, I'm ready.
And you'd worked deer decoys before, right?
So that's the funny part is not really.
Oh, not really. Okay.
I've minimal work. Never had a night hunting incident at this point. I shouldn't say that. I had some investigations prior, but never had a shooter scenario of night hunting. So, I'm just like, this is great. I got a little bit of pressure working with the sergeant and lieutenant that night, but hey.
Those high expectations.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You pulled through.
So, I'll never forget meeting right up there in Dummer, and you guys had a plan of where you wanted this thing, and I'm along for the ride. We're working in my patrol, so I'm just amped up. I'm excited, and so we got set up that night. I think you dropped Mark and I off.
Yeah, I dropped you guys off.
So we did the quick setup. You got stashed at the...
You set up the deer simulator, as Norm Lewis calls it.
Yeah.
Deer simulator.
Yeah. Yeah, so Bucky was set up there, and... Mark and I got right into our hiding spot where we could see the decoy good. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think Mark was running. Anyway, we had multiple things set up, and so I'm working one, Mark's working the other, and now we're just waiting. Yeah. And that being said, I don't think we waited too long, Wayne.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to say it was the first vehicle that came by.
He was the first or the second. I think the first one came
out
during the daylight, during legal shooting time.
Yeah.
So we weren't set up. So
Yep.
We hadn't put the reflectors on the eyes yet. So to change that around. So but we had a really good setup there. So
but that first night person to come through, I think swung right.
Swung right in, just like he was supposed to.
Yeah. So of course, so at this point we're set up in the woods, and you got to remember now there's nobody out there, right? It's just Mark and I standing in the dark in the spot. And anything that begins to happen immediately gets you 110% excited, right? Whether they're going to shoot or not
the
is
adrenaline's
irrelevant.
building.
Yeah. So as soon as you hear a car coming, you're like, "Yep, this is going to be a night hunter."
Yeah.
I mean, you just immediately your reaction. Well, then when the car, the truck in this case, swings directly towards the simulator, and lights up Bucky. Now you immediately go from that 110% to like I'm standing on the back of Ober's back trying to just see everything that's happening. So so he and I have this scenario happen right in front of us. I mean, turn right in. This is the passenger door is all of 20 feet from
and
where we're standing.
Building.
Oh yeah, and we can't talk to each other, so we're watching. And so there's, and this all feels
your binoculars generally. Did you have your binoculars?
Oh, we didn't even need it for this one. This is
that close.
Yeah, we're not able to reach out and touch the vehicle, but
you're probably 15 yards away.
Yeah, if that. Yep.
You're
and
close.
So anyway, at this point, we've got this truck lighting it up. Driver exits the truck, and again, I mean, Bucky's lit right up. We're watching this all happen, and a guy sneaks to the back, and if I remember right, I think he pulled the gun right out of the bed of the truck, works his way up to the passenger side, and at this point, I think the passenger door is even open, and raises a long gun, and all I hear is this click, Wayne. And I mean,
because
dead
the tension's
quiet.
Building inside of you.
Yeah.
You can barely breathe. You're actually stopping breathing.
Yeah, so you're just waiting for that shot, that anticipation. I mean, rifles up, now you're like in that mode of, is he gonna do it?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, hey, it is a fake deer, and whether he sees that or not at that point, it's all going through your mind. But this person's gonna shoot, and it is after dark.
And it's a muzzleloader.
Well, so here in point, so that click goes off and nothing happens. And I'm like, what just happened? I mean, we had him squeeze the trigger. Well, it was a muzzleloader, and he didn't have that primer in it. So then he fumbles to the back. So this is all. It feels like an eternity.
It does.
And so now he grabs the primer out of the back door of the truck. Raises, engages the deer again, And then, that 4-foot flame out the barrel of that gun that I'll never forget. And then the
and there's nothing
scraping.
Like a muzzleloader flame.
Oh, something else. And this is all. So now the adrenaline.
Now is a dump.
So you picture a sergeant and I trying to squeeze through this little portion of trees that we're hidden behind.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just screaming at the top of our, announcing ourselves and getting you in the loop to start heading this way. I mean, all these things are happening. And then you got the shock of the person still trying to figure out, okay, I just shot
on?
Yeah, I just shot a decoy. The deer didn't fall, you know? And, so our first night in district was the most, memorable.
First night hunting case,
First night inning, first shooter night hunter that I'd ever got. And just... Yeah, so now I'm like, wow, these are pretty turnkey if this is the first day.
You thought that was like
you guys had to give me that
real. We got that.
Like, wow, this is...
that guy wasn't a very good shot, was he?
Oh, yeah. Well, so then I think it was you and I walked up to pick up the decoy in the end. And
because a muzzleloader does a lot of damage.
Oh, yeah.
We're simulated deer.
Yeah, trying to decide what we're going to have to repair on this thing. And next thing you know, you're picking up, because we're looking at it, antlers shattered in half. One of the antlers broke right off.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah. I think you got a good photo of it somewhere. If it was a real deer,
he would have never got it, but he would have blasted an antler.
Yeah. So I think I still got those antlers in my basement.
I think you do. We got a picture of it. So I'll have to post this when we air it.
Yeah, but that was something else. First day in District 1, working with my sergeant and lieutenant, and hit a home run.
What a way to start.
I mean, that's
a career in District 1.
Yeah, I guess of all cases, a game warden pursues a night hunter is one of them, and
it's one of our big, that's one of our big cases.
Yep,
that's our 10-point deer that we mount on the wall is catching.
Yep, absolutely.
Because they're the guys that cheat. They're the guys that steal from everybody else in a huge way.
Yep.
So to stop them is a huge achievement.
Yep.
And we call that guy an opportunist. Whether he was out looking other times, but he's coming out from a long day's hunt. He sees a deer in a log line.
Had that opportunity.
Just after dark. He swings on it.
Yeah.
That's the opportunist. Now, the other guy that's out looking in shining fields and trying to kill him, he's not the opportunist.
Yeah, setting his alarm at midnight and heading out.
Opportunists are the same people, generally.
Yep.
But you just never know until that opportunity arises in front of you. Look at that deep buck. But that being said, you had quite a few years down in the seacoast, and that was a pretty awesome time for you down there. Wasn't it a good learning time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the reason I remember how much of an effect that the seacoast had on you is the day I threw your lobster gauge out in the snow.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I
thought you were real funny.
Oh, yeah. I thought, I was in Eric's cruiser, actually. That was the chase vehicle, and I was using that as a chase vehicle that time, so I was in it. And they were getting ready to deploy the decoy, and I see this lobster like, hey, you're a District 1 officer now. You don't need this anymore. And you and Glenn and I take that lobster and I chuck it out in the woods. And it's
snow. Yeah,
snow.
Yeah, real nice.
Not a lot of snow, like a foot of snow. I'm like, a foot of snow. And the look on your face, it looked like I hit your mom or something, You're like this long, drawn-out face, and, you were just horrified.
I made a lot of cases with that lobster gauge.
Horrified, and Glenn's like, oh, you just threw out, how many cases did I think? How many cases did you make with that, Eric? How many? And then I felt like the biggest heel in the world. So here I am, looking through the brush pile, looking through the foot of snow.
Yep.
That kind of gave me an idea that it wasn't all District 1, and you had a lot of time on the Seacoast. That was a good learning time. You had a lot of fun. You had a lot of memories, and it meant something to you.
Yeah.
Especially when I checked that lobster gauge out. So because I thought I shot your dog, just to look on your face, and that was a stupid. So. And I paid for it. It was cold, and it was a long time to find that thing. So I thought I was going to have to go back with the metal detector.
Sunk right to the bottom.
Right to the bottom. Yeah. So thank God I found it, though, because you'd be forever, thinking, you threw my lobster gauge out there. So, But, so, the Seacoast, you're in there, your first assignment.
Yeah. So I was signed out of the, the Exeter Patrol. Was working for Lieutenant Jeff Marston at the time. I got assigned, and really was minimal coverage on the coast. We had only a lieutenant, and then when I first got assigned, two other officers I worked with as covering District 6, and then shortly thereafter, it just became two of us covering District 6 with the lieutenant. So, which, in hindsight, I mean, it gave me a ton of experience in a short amount of time, Wayne. It was, running and gunning like always, like I still am, but just huge number of calls, always something going on in District 6. I mean, there's no downtime for any warden anymore, but more so on 6. I mean, there's just always something going on.
You have a commercial aspect
in
there.
Yeah. Every day, people are trying to make money off of the resource.
And that's generally when we find problems, when people are making money off a resource. So there's a lot of cheating going on. There's a violate in order to get ahead.
Yep.
So,
I mean,
what's one of your memorable cases?
Well,
stripers, lobsters?
I would say it was probably memorable in two different ways. Memorable for that find, and then probably the court end of things was pretty memorable as well. But yeah, just the most amount of short lobsters I've ever had seen. And I'll never forget this lobster boat pulling out of it was Seabrook at the time, so the pier, and it's leaving, and it was a rainy day, Wayne, and I just see the face of the lobster, man. It was just, so I got the boat name, all that jazz, and as he's motoring off, and so I head into the co-op and find that, hey, he landed all these bins of lobsters, so all these totes are full of lobsters. So I just do my normal thing of, interacting with the co-op and then checking over the lobsters, and immediately start getting into shorts. And Ron Arsenal at the time was working down there, and came in, and so he and I are just going right down through as I had found, had this violation, and he and I went through. We must have, I forget the number, Wayne, if it was in the 70s of short lobsters out of this bin. Now, give a background on that. If you find one short lobster, that's a rare thing. I mean, these commercial fishermen, commercial lobstermen, they're held to that standard, and they don't want that resource lost, and they don't want the violation.
Kind of self-policing?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's in their best.
If I take this short lobster, there may not be lobsters down the road.
Yeah, exactly. It's in their best interest to meet those requirements for managing and having their resource forever, I guess you'd say. So whenever we find 70 something of them, I mean, that was just something else.
So you're saying one's rare, 70 is unheard of.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, and so that was that was probably one of the more memorable, but did not have a successful prosecution of that, which was very unfortunate. And I guess I'll just kind of leave it at that. But some of my most memorable ones were, I'm just trying to think, the Elver poaching. Was something
I got to go back to that lobster thing.
Yeah.
I can't leave it, Eric. But, and I don't think people understand the process, too, of we catch them, and then there's a process. We got to go to a court, and we got to prove our case. And sometimes I've had judges say, you proved your case, but... And then I lose the case because of whether he feels it's this way or that way, or the judge doesn't, sometimes we don't do our job by, telling them and laying it out, because it's kind of like doing a podcast. For people that don't listen, that they don't understand, I try to, when you say something that they may not know, like a smolt or something, I try to explain it, but then it's hard for me because I know what the terminology is. It's common to me, but it may not be common to the other listener. So when we process these cases, we've lost some good cases. Norm Lewis talked about a case. It's one of his best cases that he lost. But I think in reality, we don't lose the case. We made a dent in it.
Yeah. I mean, no matter what, we brought the case forward, and it was
we put it in a court of law, and for some reason, somehow, it gets thrown out. And can you tell me, why that one got thrown out, or is it? I mean, sometimes they feel bad for the person. Sometimes. They don't take your evidence in.
And it was a significant, and I guess maybe, too, to get the background of, in the state of New Hampshire, conservation officers have to prosecute their own cases.
Right.
With the exception of something like a felony or what have you. So in this case, we are, I'm a new officer at the time. We're bringing a case forward and prosecuting that case, which bringing all my testimony in of what happened, Ron's testimony, anything that we had, we brought in to include all the lobsters in measuring those lobsters and showing that. And whether we failed to kind of, we brought up the significance of how little, a short's a short. It's either legal or it's not, albeit that, some of these are only short by, 30 seconds, whatever the minimal measurement.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's either short or it's not.
Yep. And now whether that depiction was, minimized, I don't know. I don't know. In the end, it was taken under advisement, and then we ended up getting getting a, I'm trying to think if it was but basically didn't get a guilty finding. So, which, and that was a case that had, here's a commercial fisherman who's making money off of the resource. Who knows how many times, obviously caught him that one time. Who knows how many times he had been landing those types of numbers, making money and taking away from other
and
commercial
sometimes
fishermen.
Judges don't take, whether it's environmental or resource violations, as serious as others. And, sometimes I can understand that when you're dealing with murderers, assaults, and stuff like that. But it's a resource that lasts for a long time. And if we don't, treat it right, it's going to be gone. So, and trying to relay that information that probably isn't relative to a case, but certainly is a relative to our future.
Yep.
So, it's tricky.
So I don't know that it was any necessary fault of that case. It how the cards played out. And
awesome cases. We put awesome cases, a lot of time into it. We try to dot every I and cross every T, and we try to, and sometimes it doesn't. So, no, I get it, and I could tell it's a little sore spot.
Yeah,
and that's kind of, I want to delve into it because that's part of being a warden, and it hurts us when we don't win.
And it was hard. I mean, the fishing community is a tight knit community down there for sure, and I just certainly didn't want it ever depicted that we brought a case forward, and I think it was in the eyes of all the commercial fishermen at the time, and we didn't get that guilty finding, but I don't think it was ever held against us in that community. I know
you feel bad you let them down.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. I would say for sure on that. The expectation when you catch somebody with all that is, hey, they're gonna, they'll pay for what they've done, and it keeps it fair amongst all the fishermen down there.
It's kind of like you pull the trigger on a simulated deer, the expectation is you're guilty.
Right, yeah.
During night.
Yeah.
And generally I've always found when people are caught red-handed that they're pretty good about it.
Yep.
So, but others, especially when it's their livelihood.
Yeah, I mean,
take it to that extra. So, and to a degree, we can understand that. So, but I don't think we're asking a lot to maintain your livelihood for generations.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In that commercial endeavor with playing with the natural resource,
Absolutely. Start talking about elvers.
Oh, yeah. I know you're going to laugh at this, Wayne, but I'm going to have to go take a break, in the words of K-9 training.
We can take a break.
Okay. Cash.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about elvers now.
Yeah. Sounds good, Wayne.
Yeah.
Appreciate
elvers.
Yeah. Like I said, that lobster case was, just a big, you don't run into those that often, but there were numerous cases on the coast of just that stuff, you're catching people.
And you're constantly watching. You're working that seacoast. You got your binoculars out. You're out in a boat, and you're in your binoculars. And that's why I love my name, Warden's Watch. And, certainly we had a little writing about Warden's Watch too, the department does. So, but that's what wardens do, is we watch, and then when we see the violation, we act.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of watching. So constant.
On the bino standpoint, it was kind of funny. So I first get on the coast while I'm, checking this spot, checking that spot, parking here, walking out there. And I'll never forget, I'm walking back on the railroad tracks, and Lieutenant Marston pulls up. I'm like, what are you doing? I was checking out, making sure seeing if anybody was fishing down there. And I'll never forget, he hands me the bino, and they are like twice the bino of what I had, right? And I'm like, he's like, yeah, they're yours. You can have them. And I'm like, oh, man. So
because the coastal guys have bigger binoculars.
Yeah, these got a better, certainly the zoom on it's way, way better. I mean, I can see stuff clear as day that my other ones I could still see pretty well with, but these are just twice the binos. So since then, I've had those pretty close to me in my cruiser all the time, Wayne.
Yeah.
I think actually I remember you helping me out with those.
We're gonna have
I don't know if we should. Can you cut this out? I don't know.
Let's tell the story. I don't think Lieutenant Eastman will take your binoculars away from you. So we can tell this story because you got very close to those binoculars because something happened to your original ones. You sent them out.
Yeah. So that's always an interesting. Luckily, I'd gotten the clearance from headquarters to send these out to get repaired. Because it's really interesting when the new binos come back. The company didn't repair them; they just sent a brand new set. And the serial numbers don't match.
Isn't upgraded?
Oh yeah. These things, they're like the new equivalent of 10 years ago.
Right.
Those other ones were. So
yeah, because they barely saw an issue and said we're not fixing that. We're junking that. We're shipping him a new set.
Yeah, I'd look through them, those old ones, and I'd just get like seasick. I wasn't even standing on the ocean. So it was just.
But these binoculars you got were.
Oh yeah. Yeah, brand new in the box, came to the house.
Incredible binoculars.
Yeah, I remember calling Lieutenant Bryant being like, hey, you're never going to believe this, but they sent me a brand new set. And he's like, and now I got this serial number and the other one's gone. And
you paid for shipping yourself because you wanted them back right away. You didn't want the department to ship them out. So you paid for your own shipping there.
Yep, exactly. I'm like, hey, got a problem, I'm going to fix it. And got the clearance to do it. And sometimes it's easier to just throw the money at it and get,
And you got rewarded for it, too.
Hey, got a brand new set.
Awesome set of binoculars. And then when you went from District 6 to District 1, you were supposed to leave them there because they were the seacoast binoculars.
Yeah, I mean, I did leave a pair of binos there.
You did. But I had to go up to the camp where we had some pretty good binoculars, not as good as yours, and trade those to the seacoast because they wanted those 10x50s, those big ones.
So we did.
Yeah, so I made some trades there. I called Lieutenant Eastman and said, Eric's kind of attached to his binoculars. So I didn't tell him they were the latest.
A lot of cases with those.
Latest
a lot of
and
cases.
Greatest, that they were high-tech, night vision, in the swim in the water with them type binoculars because he would have wanted those back. But I did tell him you were attached to binoculars, and I had a set at the camp that nobody had attachments to that were similar.
Perfect.
And so we sent those to the coast, and you got to keep yours, and we put a pair of smaller binoculars up at the camp, so we could still watch fishermen on the lake up at the camp. So, and that's the game warden camp one first. So,
yeah.
But anyway, so you had that attachment to your binoculars, and totally understand. Wardens get that. Mike Moody, the only thing he wanted when he retired was the binoculars.
Oh, yeah.
And if anybody uses binoculars in DEET or rubber in DEET, you spray on that for the mosquitoes. It eats rubber to pieces. And Mike Moody's was using DEET from watching fishermen, putting bug spray on them and then watching fishermen. They looked like they'd been just through the mill. They were shredded. Just shredded, and that's the only thing he wanted. He wanted his binoculars. So we actually bought his binoculars back from the state. They surplused them, and they tried to put a value on them. And they were like looking at these things. They're like, what are they worth? I don't even worth $5 because they're destroyed. So I think we paid $10 for them or something because it was. They looked at them and they thought they were probably 20 years old and they were DEET ridden and they were. I don't even think we can sell these. So, anyways, we gave those back to Mike at his retirement. That meant a lot to him too. So, the name's Warden's Watch is for a reason because our binoculars become our extra set of eyes attached to them because we see a lot of violation. That kind of lends credence to my name and the name that as it was before. Warden's. So. And for those out there, we watch a lot of people. They may not get checked all the time, but we certainly check a lot of people with our binoculars without actually physically going up and checking. So we're the eyes in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And seeing what people are doing when they don't think anybody's watching,
Yeah. So, but Elvers, first of all, I think Josiah went into this a little, but...
Yeah, because Josiah would have been there in the heyday with...
You guys worked together.
Yeah, he and I were down there.
Now, did you actually come on together?
No, so Josiah would have been... He must be at least a year ahead of me.
Is he?
Yep.
So, okay, you're both assigned to the seacoast.
Yep. So Josiah and I would have been working Elvers right in that heyday. I mean, we had significant activity at night. I guess maybe to give a little background on what they are, but basically Elver is juvenile American eel. So they're now making their way.
Also known as a glass eel, am I right?
Yeah. Okay. So they'll call them glass eels because they'll be see-through in this time when people are trying to harvest them. So they look literally
like little worms.
Yeah, exactly.
Little clear worms.
Maybe 2-inch in length and real thin. Almost like just looking at a small see-through straw. So they'll be migrating under darkness from those brackish waters, the salt water into our freshwater tributaries. So
nice. So, and what makes these eels special, or did at that time?
Yeah, so apparently again, how much of this, but basically the delicacy of those glass eels and growing these eels for the overseas market was what caused this draw. So there are some states that, I think at the time there were only 2 states that had a commercial season on them, or anyway, very few states on that East Coast that had a commercial season, and that just created that black market, Wayne. So they wanted to poach anywhere that they were.
And they were worth a lot of money, weren't they?
Yeah, right? I think at this, in its peak when I was there, $2,000 a pound. Now what the backyard poacher gets for them to the person who has the ability to sell them, I don't know. But if you're getting that $2,000 a pound,
supply and
it's going to be significant monies.
And how many pounds do you think an effective poacher could get in a night?
I mean, when you're looking at these in their peak run, I mean, it's something else, Wayne. I don't know whether you could fill a 5-gallon bucket full, I'm sure, and what that equated to poundage. I mean, significant poundage in money.
Yeah. Probably 20 pounds, I'd say, at least.
And you're just sitting
maybe
there
more.
and
yeah,
it just looked, obviously not every night was a good run, but when it was running, if you timed it right, I bet you could have a $10,000 plus night anyway,
Wow.
And these people must have, I mean.
Yeah, and then you have 10 of those nights, and you're doing pretty good for the year, huh?
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just incredible to think, even just to think that. Yeah, so let's say at $2,000 a pound. So yeah, all I need to do is get 5 pounds, which at 2 inches and as small as they are, it's got to take a significant amount of them.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah, just to think that you could have a couple $1,000 night.
Yeah,
and
that increased the poaching for sure.
Yeah, that rewards, that opportunity, to have that opportunity and be able to, the greed of trying to get those funds, and definitely created that avenue for people to come to our state and poach them.
Mm-hmm. So that was pretty active when you were down on the seacoast.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember how we even got into it, but I can tell you for sure. So Chris Schottmeyer for sure was inspirational in getting us to be out there trying to enforce the rules associated with them. So, we don't have a season for them. So,
always closed.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was, Noah, special agent, and got Josiah and I right into enforcing all the rules on it. And, with Lieutenant Marston backing us. So.
Nice. So any operations stand out?
I would say, one in particular from start to finish is one that stands out for sure. And this would have been a case that occurred on the Lamprey River in Newmarket. One particular night, I'm trying to think if I got... Yeah, so I actually took a call from, they all blend here, Wayne.
Yeah,
so
I understand. As you get older, they're going to blend more. That's why we're getting this, you're young, Eric,
So this particular night, I was working alone, my Lieutenant Eastman at the time, and I think, CO Mark Hensel were together. They were canvassing some spots. Well, I happened to live in Newmarket at the time, and had the PD drop me off at a spot. So I'm now this is just the want of a game warden to be in the woods, sitting on a spot and hopefully going to witness poaching. Now, how many times in our career, Wayne, do we do that? Nothing happens. Well,
a lot.
Well, this night it came together, and the lamprey was running. I'd been kind of keeping an eye, and just decided, hey, I'm going to put time into the lamprey. It's convenient for me to access the PD. Great relationship with the PD. So they dropped me off on this opposing shore to the area where you would dip it. Mm-hmm. So I set up. I snuck down in. PD left and basically just kept my portable for communication if I needed it, and had my cell phone, all that jazz. So this particular night, I just remember, so I'm sitting in some bushes just looking over the river, and I'll never forget it. I start seeing a headlamp moving, and I hadn't been there long at all. It took me a while to sneak into the spot. Hadn't been there long at all, and I see a headlamp working its way up to the good spot that I would want to dip if I was doing it. And so sure enough, I'm seeing a net going, and I'm like, oh, this is coming together. This is what what I was hoping for. And so now at this point, I'm just seeing that one headlamp. This is behind some mill buildings, so there's it's hard to see everything, but I'm watching this going on. So I'm without a doubt confident that somebody is dipping. So I'm starting to make some phone calls, and so I got a flip phone at the time, and I'm trying to, I can't remember if I was texting or calling, but I'm getting Lieutenant Eastman and Mark Hensel in the loop that, hey, I got activity, start heading this way. And while this is all going down, I all of a sudden hear a whistle ring out, Wayne. And it's just somebody, those people that can just throw their fingers in their mouth and make this incredible whistle. Well, that rings out. Yeah, me neither. Rings out in behind these mill buildings, right? And so so at this point, all I've had is my cell phone out, watching all this go down. I hear this whistle, and then just see that headlamp scatter, right?
So that's the alarm?
Oh, yeah, is all that's in my mind. So I'm like, I'm screwed now, So they know I'm there. How, I don't know, but something scared them. Something spooked them. So I immediately call the PD and I say, hey, I need you guys to head down and make contact. While I'm trying to do this, I'm running across, which in this particular area was further than I
You're not running across the river, are you?
No, it was too deep for that.
I was going to say,
I'm doing the circle.
I know that's what we want to do. We want to get to the other
side.
I
want to be there. So I'm running through the woods, making my way around the dam area where these people were, and which is a significant area. So the PD I'm calling, they're right nearby. They start rushing down. So as I'm making my sprint around, I roll up on them. The PD's out, and there's, for crying out loud, Wayne, there's 4 people that were there. They've got a vehicle. They've got a handgun on the roof of the vehicle.
Ooh.
They've pulled everybody out, and now comes CO Fluette, who's got to determine which one of these guys was dipping, right? And I'll never forget. I went with so I was looking through Binos, watching everything go on, and I immediately got drawn to the guy that had this hoodie on, because that who was dipping, the person that was dipping had a hooded sweatshirt. So I immediately run up to him. Now the PD's right there. So everybody's secure and everything, and now the investigation end of it has to happen, because we don't necessarily have somebody red-handed now, right? So I'm trying to figure out who was the person dipping, who was the violator.
Right.
And even though damn well they all were there to dip.
Yeah, they're all inclusions.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I grabbed this guy, separate him from his friends, bring him to a spot, and I said, you know why I'm here? This is your one opportunity, essentially a little bit of a bluff maybe, but, I need you to come clean 100% with, I know why you're here, but what are you doing and where are the Elvers? And I'll tell you, the defeated look I got in that immediate end of, the head down. I mean, you got the person, which I was ecstatic that I, had the right person out of those 4. And I said, hey, why don't you bring me to the Elvers? And so he walks me back, Wayne, to a dip net on the shoreline, and it still had Elvers in it. So it had a handful of them in it, and I was like, oh, this is all I need, and arrested him and brought him up to the PD. Secured all my evidence. In the end, what we figure, one of the guys had one of those old recording cameras, like just a handheld video camera. And we think, so he had the night vision mode of that. Yep. And whether I don't know if my cell phone light would have been that bad facing me. I was certainly being tactical with it, but if that's what, him to see me or somehow saw me in those bushes.
Right.
But we think that guy was basically being counter surveillance of making sure no one was in the bushes. And
Did you find out which one of them whistled?
So not really. No. There was so much going on for me at that standpoint, and then Lieutenant Eastman and CO Mark Hensel got there, so we went right through the vehicle, tons of dip nets, basically seized everything, and ultimately got the one arrest, and he was basically the only one that was dipping, and that was who I chose to prosecute with these violations. So. Yeah, fast forwarding ahead, I mean, that was just, hey, game warden work at its finest. Being in the woods, being right there, quick apprehension, and in poaching those high value elvers. So, in on that note, when court time came, so this would have been to the Exeter District Court, and so it was. Let's just say it was one of my first times, being there or what have you, being before the judge. And I'll never forget, it ended up being a plea. So guy's gonna plead to this. And I didn't have much, because of this being a commercial, people making money and significant monies. I mean, we had a set number of what we wanted per each violation, and that was it. So you either pled to that or we went to trial on the case. And so I'll never forget, we're standing outside, and he's like, yeah, ultimately, I think one of them I might have dropped one of my charges, but it was to the extent of $6,800. And I remember it to the date, the receipt I still have in my office. And so he's like, yeah, I'll plead to that. So I'm like, okay. And I remember being in the lobby, and I'm like, so you got cash on you? I was trying to figure out,
right,
because he's ready to pay, and he's like, yeah, I got the cash on me, and so I'm like, oh,
$6,800, a lot of cash, huh?
Oh yeah. So I said, well, I'll walk you down to the clerk after we leave the courtroom. So I went before the judge, just kind of hit home with the judge in my end of the plea with, this is a high value item. This is why the fines are high. And so in the end, it was agreed to. So he had to pay before he left $6,800. We went downstairs. I've never seen the clerk's eyes so big when he starts piling up $100 bills and cash currency to pay his $6,800 fine.
And the thing that goes through my mind is drug dealer, because a drug dealer's dealing cash a lot. So elvers. And
you never know what to believe. I mean, obviously this person minimized it certainly to me that, hey, I was in this crowd. Nobody's helping me. Nobody's helping me pay this.
But I have $6,800 in cash available.
So yeah. In any case, I hope I deterred it with that group, and whether he did or not.
And maybe he went somewhere else.
Who knows?
But definitely, when you have that high value item, reward, like you said, risk versus reward. Yeah. So it's certainly we're the deterrent there. But man, when you're getting that kind of money for a resource. There's a lot of people out there willing to take the risk. Yeah. So
no, I'll never forget that though. I had to ask her. I'm like, hey, can I have a receipt for that? Because I've never seen that much cash paid to a fine.
No, neither have I. I have never seen.
Yeah, I guess that would be my biggest income on a violation was that case. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty impressive. So, any other seacoast?
I mean, it was just a bunch of awesome work down there. Yeah. So tuna, I remember, a tuna that they're not supposed to be cut up or anything. Well, I go down and check into this boat lane, and one guy with I think he had just one of those hats with the hair sticking out of it. Just an interesting crew.
Yeah.
Start
something
talking
you gravitated
to somebody
to right away.
Yeah, and start talking to him, and one thing led to another. There's blood all around. You can see blood and stuff on the boat, and checking fish and open a cooler and there's chunked up tuna, which they're supposed to come in whole or specific method of gutting them, and we have links associated with that.
So if it's a legal tuna.
Yep, exactly. So in this case, this thing came in all chunked out.
And you have no idea how big it was. If it was
so
a legal limit.
Exactly. I can't tell if this was legal or if this was a short tuna that they were, poaching and hiding to get home. So ultimately that was a good catch for just being in the right place at the right time when that boat came in, Wayne.
Yeah.
Ended up having the special agent come down with one of their uniformed officers, and Shopmeyer and the uniform officer went right through, and they actually had the ability to give a hand summons on that as well. So it worked out great. Good.
Did you charge him on the state side as well, or did you just let the federal take care of it?
I think that one. So I believe all of that was federal, associated with the highly migratory species of tuna. So that,
and what a lot of people don't understand, we can charge the state side, and then the feds can charge their side as well. So they can actually get violations whacked twice. State and federal laws, because they're different. So and I learned that with the Forest Service. I've written a couple tickets with them, and I write up my ticket for the state, and they write their ticket for the government. So it's so there is two sides to that coin. So if there's a federal violation involved on federal property or with the federal animal or in federal waters in this case,
in this case.
So and sometimes we let the feds take it all. We find it and we hand it over. I always like to take the state side too. So, and sometimes I didn't call them on stuff too. So, but it's the way that works, the way our legal system's set up. So, I certainly wanted to bring that out to folks. So, and we work a lot with the federal government. I've talked about our JEA, details before, and they basically pay for us to be out there to do their end outside of 3 miles. So, because they can't do it all.
Well, that's the thing. You put two sets of eyes. However many officers were covering New Hampshire at the time federally, and then now at least you have extra eyes out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always get heartburn thinking about my patrol area, and then let alone an ocean and having only one set of eyes. So in this case it benefited the feds by having us out there as an extra set of eyes.
And it benefits the resource, too, to have us out there, too. So, we just don't make these laws up because we like to make laws up. And we don't make them up.
Right.
We just enforce them. Everybody likes to think it's our laws, but we have really a little to do with how it is, We just enforce them. So whether we agree with them or not, that's our job to enforce, resource regulations. And federal, they pay us to do the federal stuff because they can't do it all. And it helps the resource. And, I think long-term, even the commercial fishermen would understand that because they've seen stocks come up. The cod, hopefully, is going to be a success story as we've depleted the cod, and now we have some serious restrictions on cod. And I'm hoping we're going to have a success story similar to the striped bass. So, and we're going to see that come back. That's and I think that's everybody's goal, really. Whether you're a commercial fisherman, you hate to say you're going out of business because there's no fish, but, I'd rather say it's because we're setting up rules and regulations that puts me out of business, but we're doing that not to put you out of business, but to save a resource for the future.
Yeah.
That's the biologist side. That's the rulemaking side, and we're the enforcement. So we always have to be the bad guys in some cases. So
sometimes that conservation, the methods of conservation isn't just the law enforcement. It's the biology end of it and sustaining those fisheries in this case.
Right. And at this point, Eric, I think we're going to wrap this up as your first episode. It'll be one of my many episodes, but I think we're going to close this one out and we're going to start another one because we still got a lot to talk about. And I'm not going to let you go because we're going to do another segment. We've an hour and 15 minutes into this one. I think that's a good listen for our listeners. I think we can do another one probably just as long. And, I think it'll be awesome because we haven't talked about, our moose hunting excursions, our hunting, the first episode of Northwoods Law we were on together. Moxie, our airboat experiences. So we got a lot more to talk about. So I think we will take a break here and we're going to have 2 episodes with Eric Fluette. So New Hampshire Game Warden.
Well, sounds good, Wayne. Well, I'm glad to be here. So.
Just finishing up episode 10 with Eric Fluette. Taking a little break. We're going to come back. A little break. That's 2 weeks for you. Hang on. The next one coming up is going to be part 2. That'll be episode 11 with Eric Fluette, continuation. Like I said, coming into the softball game, Eric Fluette and Chris McCabe were highlighted in the social media blitz for the softball game that's going to raise money for IWC, International Wildlife Crime Stoppers, as well as Operation Game Thief, both New Hampshire and Maine, and Make-A-Wish Foundations. You can participate. I hope you come and see those guys. If not, we're working on live streaming. We'll see how that works out. Hopefully you'll be able to do that. Hang on for 2 more weeks and you'll hear the conclusion. It's basically another podcast with Eric Fluette. I hope you enjoyed this one. There's much more to come. So tune back in.
Please join me, Game Warden Wayne Saunders, and other game wardens on our adventures protecting wildlife, saving lives, and having fun, all while serving the public and the natural resources of our planet. Listen to the tales and experiences of those who work in the outdoors while being entertained with stories about encounters with poachers, wildlife investigation, murder investigation, near-death experiences, search and rescue missions, wildlife interactions from game wardens around the country and around the world. When I retired, I realized I couldn't let go of that legacy, but rather wanted to share the passion, the commitment, and the stories of those men and women that call themselves game wardens. This is Game Warden Wayne Saunders, and this is Warden's Watch.